Whether you're here for the World Cup, a pop culture pilgrimage, or just because Atlanta's always been on your list of places to visit, let's go explore a few of the worlds hidden inside the A. Welcome to Pop Culture Passport, your ultimate guide to quirky and cool destinations across the US. I'm your host, Beth Scalacci, aka the Roman Yeti, here to help you dive into the world of theme parks, uncover film and TV locations, and explore quirky museums, roadside attractions, and legendary venues that capture the heart and soul of this unique country. So grab your pop culture passport and let's discover destinations that resonate with your interest, not just with what's trending on social media. Are you ready? Let's roam! Welcome back. If you are listening to this episode around the time it was released in early 2026, you probably know this already, but the World Cup is coming to North America, and Atlanta is one of the cities getting ready to welcome the world. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is going to be electric. It's gonna be so cool. But here's the thing I kept thinking as I was working on this episode. If you only stay within the orbit of the stadium, the hotels, the ride shares, the official fan zones, you're gonna miss the Atlanta that locals actually love. Because Atlanta isn't just a host city, it's a place where people have been quietly building strange, creative, and very specific worlds for decades. And as I started pulling together places for this episode, I noticed a pattern. So many of Atlanta's most beloved spots exist because someone cared deeply enough about one thing, whether it's puppets, folk art, fried chicken, tiny doors, and they decided to build something around those. So today, instead of a checklist, I wanted to share a set of Atlanta side quests. These are places shaped by obsession, imagination, and personality, the kind of stops that make you feel like the trip is for this reason. So we have to start of a place that I love and I can't wait to go back to. The Center for Puppetry Arts. I've been there. I did a whole episode on it a couple of years ago. I'll try to remember to link to it in the show notes, but if not, you can find it. I can tell you the word puppet doesn't begin to cover what this place is. It's not a children's museum that you just breeze through in an hour. It's a creative institution built on the belief that puppetry is a serious global art form. And when you leave that place, you will understand why. The center opened in 1978 with Jim Henson himself as its guest of honor. And Henson and the center's founder, Vincent Anthony, shared a very specific belief. Puppetry wasn't something you grew out of, it was storytelling, and it deserved to be taken seriously. And that belief shaped everything that followed. When Jim Henson passed away, his family made a choice that still surprises people. Instead of sending his legacy to Hollywood or locking it away in a vault, they entrusted it to Atlanta. And I'm so glad they did. Walking through the Jim Henson Collection, you're inches away from Screen News Muppets, things from like the Dark Crystal, from Labyrinth, from Fraggle Rock, Sesame Street. And there's just so much Jim Henson related. But beyond that, you can walk through how other countries have used puppets throughout the year. It's just a must do, and they often have shows. They have workshops. So, check when you're going to be there and make sure you stop in. So, if Jim Henson built worlds out of felt and foam, Joel Slayton built one out of whatever the land gave him. Now, Doll's Head Trail might be the most quietly powerful example of Atlanta's self made spirit. It winds through an old 19th century brickyard that had become an illegal dumping ground, the kind of place that most people would walk past without a second thought. Not Joel. Joel, a local carpenter and hiker, did the opposite. Instead of ignoring the debris, he began arranging it. Broken doll heads, rusted machinery, discarded tiles, everything used in the installations came from the site itself. He had one rule: nothing new could be brought in. If it wasn't there already, it didn't belong. The result is eerie, beautiful, and strangely emotional. The trail feels less like an art installation and more like a conversation between imagination and decay, a reminder that even discarded things can be reseen. There's a hand painted sign along the trail that reads, "Litter makes the angels cry." And somehow that sums up the place. One of my favorite things that I learned about Atlanta is that it doesn't announce itself. Some of the most interesting places aren't loud landmarks or headline attractions. They're tucked away behind gates, inside neighborhoods, or hiding in places that you'd walk past without a second glance. You don't stumble into them by accident. You find them because someone tips you off or because you're willing to look a little closer. These are the Atlanta side quests that reward your curiosity. So, at first glance, the Swan House feels like it belongs somewhere else entirely. Built in 1928, this Italian style mansion sits quietly on a hill in Buckhead. Its symmetry and sweeping staircases giving it an almost unreal storybook quality. Now, pop culture fans will recognize it instantly as President Snow's mansion in the Hunger Games, the chilling heart of the capital. Standing on those stone steps, it's easy to feel the cinematic weight of the place. The architecture alone does a lot of the work, formal, imposing, and carefully controlled. But the real history of the Swan House is just as fascinating. The Inman family who built the home was famously protective of it. They were so concerned with preserving its perfection that they reportedly forbade their own grandchildren from using the grand front staircase, worried too much foot traffic would damage the wood. Like, that's a whole nother level for you're not allowed in the living room and sit on the couch kind of feeling. But it's a beautiful contradiction, right? Like a house built as a monument to success, yet treated almost like a museum from the moment it was finished. It the tension, between elegance and restraints is just what makes the Swan House feel so powerful, both on screen and in real life. Now, Atlanta also knows how to keep a secret, sometimes literally behind a locked door. So, right in the heart of downtown, you'll find what looks like an ordinary British style red phone booth. It's not decorative, and it's definitely not making phone calls. This is the entrance to a 1920s style speakeasy, and getting inside is part of the experience. You'll need a secret code. It's usually passed on by a hotel concierge or maybe a local who's in the drill, or maybe even from the website. But dial the number on the rotary phone, and if you got it right, the back door slides open. Inside, the city noise drops away, leather chairs, low lighting, and carefully crafted cocktails create a space that feels deliberately removed from the modern world outside. It's not fancy, it's not obvious, and that's exactly the point. Next, one of Atlanta's most delightful discoveries doesn't live in a single building at all. It lives on sidewalks, on walls, and unexpected corners all across the city. Tiny Doors Atlanta is a public art project created by the artist Karen Anderson Singer. The concept is simple, and honestly brilliant. Install 7-inch tall doors throughout Atlanta, each one custom designed to reflect the personality of its location. Some doors are playful, some are subtle, some are deeply personal. You may find a rainbow hued door near LGBTQ plus landmarks, sci fi inspired designs near comic shops, or tiny architectural replicas that mirror the buildings they're attached to. What started as one door has turned into a citywide scavenger hunt, an invitation to slow down, look closer, and engage with Atlanta at completely different scale. Like this one I love. The door at the Georgia Aquarium features a tiny porthole. The one at the Fox Theater echoes the grand entrance in miniature. Each one of these doors just rewards your attention and you're keeping an eye out for. They're small moments, but they stick with you, and they're a perfect reminder that some of the best travel experiences happen when you're not rushing from place to place. One of the strangest and most fun things about this city is how it disguises itself. Now, Atlanta doesn't always show up on your movie or TV screen as Atlanta. It becomes so many other places. It becomes Wakanda. It becomes New York, San Francisco, Washington, D.C. It just entices fictional worlds are layered on top of the real streets and the buildings of Atlanta. And once you know that, you can't unsee that. So if you're in Atlanta for the World Cup, you're probably going to spend some time near Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now, just beyond that area is what the locals call the Gulch, a network of rail lines, bridges, and open concrete spaces that most visitors would walk right past. But Marvel fans, you're going to know this differently. This is where the massive marketplace opening fight scene in Captain America Civil War was filmed. The location's raw industrial feel made it perfect for transforming into a crowded, chaotic Lagos, Nigeria. And standing there, you'll it's a little surreal to realize that a place so ordinary in real life once held one of MCU's most memorable battles. And really, it's a great reminder that in Atlanta, cinematic moments are usually hidden in plain sight. Like, take for example, the High Museum of Art is worth a visit on its own, striking architecture, world class collections, and a peaceful presence in Midtown. But if you've seen Black Panther, you might recognize it as the museum where Killmonger steals the Wakandan artifacts early in the film. That scene added a whole new layer to the space, turning a real world cultural institution into a key moment in a global blockbuster. So, walking through the museum afterward, there's a quiet thrill in realizing how seamlessly Atlantis slips into these fictional worlds without losing its identity. Now, in downtown Atlanta, it's home to one of the city's most visually striking buildings, the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. So, if you step inside, you're going to see the 47-story atrium, and it feels less like a hotel and more like a spaceship. Well, that futuristic design has made it a favorite filming location for many sci fi and superhero productions. It was in Loki, it was in The Hunger Games: Catching Fire, and it was also in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So even if you're not staying there, it's worth walking through the lobby just to take it in. It's one of those places where you suddenly recognize the background of scenes you've watched dozens of times, and then you realize you're standing in the middle of that scene. Now, Atlanta's relationship with Stranger Things runs deep, and some of the most iconic locations sit just outside the city. So if you have time and you're willing to drive about 30 minutes south, you'll find places like the real life Hawkins High School, which was a former middle school in Stockbridge, and the Creole House. Now, these aren't polished attractions or theme park versions of the show. They're quiet neighborhoods and buildings that feel almost dreamlike if you've spent time in the series. And there's just something uniquely eerie about seeing such familiar places exist so calmly in the real world. It feels less like sightseeing and more like drifting through a memory. Hopefully it's not, one of the scary memories from Stranger Things. But I also can't do an episode on Atlanta without mentioning two iconic food stops that just happen to both be related to chicken. So before Chick-fil-A became a global brand with thousands of locations, it was just one place, the Dwarf House. And this is where founder Truett Cathy spent 17 years working out a single idea, the chicken sandwich. Long before there was any talk of franchises or expansion, nearly 2 decades of patience, tinkering, and showing up every day to the same diner. You can still visit that original location today. And inside the Dwarf House, feels like a fast food museum that you can actually eat in. You can enter through the tiny 4-foot door, order items you won't find anywhere else, like fried okra or lemon pie, and sit in a space that was where one very specific obsession slowly turned into something much bigger. It's a reminder that not every success story starts fast. And That's sort of comforting, at least to me. And finally, there's a landmark that might be the most Atlanta thing of all, the Big Chicken. Standing 56 feet tall in Marietta, this giant steel bird doubles as a KFC restaurant, and somehow that makes perfect sense here. Now, when a storm nearly destroyed it in the 1990s, the corporation considered tearing it down. Locals pushed back hard. Why? Because the Big Chicken wasn't just a restaurant site. It was a reference point, a piece of shared language. In Atlanta, people don't give directions using street names. They say things like, take a left at the Big Chicken. Honestly, that's how you're supposed to give directions, in my opinion. But in a city that's constantly changing, these w- wonderful landmarks stick around, and not just because it made sense on paper, but because people love them. So if you're coming to Atlanta for the World Cup or for any reason at all, don't just be a spectator. Pick a side quest, wonder a little, follow the weird thing that catches your attention. And with that, we add another stamp to our pop culture passport. I hope that this episode inspires you to get out and explore all that is quirky and cool, even in your own backyard. Follow, download, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Tell a friend and leave a review if you like what we're doing. It really does help the show to grow. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Just search for The Roaming Yeti. Keep roaming and finding your fun.